Hello everyone, Brian here with a few more comments about Iglesias de San Andres. The tower, as promised, is all together. You can see the stone down below and the stone inside and the wood floor. I actually added a wood floor and some stone. Can we see it there? We can barely see it there inside that door, in case I want to leave that door open. And now I've begun the brickwork. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit this morning, because this model has decorative elements on it. These little ledges here, and we've got some arch stuff which we've seen before, but we've got these reinforcing columns on the corners. And what I wanted to note about this, so you can see the outline printed here, and really what I want to say is, remember, this is a suggestion. How you actually do that is up to you, so don't try and get absolutely precise. You can see, for example, that the average brick is slightly longer than this is in one direction, not both directions. But when you look at this, I mean, this is going to be huge if we actually follow the outline of that. And really all it is a support column, right here on the corner. And so what I think you really want to do, what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to expand this out by essentially one brick on both sides to provide a thicker corner on that. I'm not going to try and go all the way out to what is outlined there on the cardboard. And in fact, when you take a look at the sample model that was put together for this, and you look at the how far these come out and what they look like, they don't come out that far. They're not that wide. What you could do there, and what is probably the reality of the building, is it may be that it does in fact start that wide, and then it gets narrower as you go up. But I think if you try and do that, you're going to find it's fairly complicated to do. You're going to do a lot of sanding. I don't know. It's probably possible. I don't think I'm going to do it, though. It seems like perhaps more trouble than it's worth, and it doesn't look like what they did on the sample model, and the sample model looks pretty good. So this is the way I'm going to approach this thing. And then what I'm going to do is rather, the easiest thing here would just be, if I do this on the next course, then I've got to put a half piece here and a half piece here. So the easier thing to do is actually, send the wall all the way out to here. And on this side, do the same thing. And then you're just putting one piece of brick there, and you're not cutting bricks apart. So figuring out how to tie these into the wall as you go up and get comfortable with exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, is the real battle here. And the other thing you'll see is, you're not really coming out to the edge over here. What you're doing is popping the corner out diagonally this way, so you're not going to line up on the cardboard on either side with this. What you're going to do is you're going to create a diagonal reinforcement there. So again, this gives you the impression of the detail you're trying to create on that corner. It's not intended, at least I don't think it's intended to be, a specific instruction as to exactly where to put the bricks for this thing. Over here on the corner, notice we've got reinforcing on one side, but not on this side. And again, what was done on the sample model and what you look at online bears that out. And this was the same thing. I began by making this absolutely precise to the diagram down here. And what I found is that if I continued to do that, I would have to do half pieces here. I'd have to like cut them half width to make that happen. And so what I did is I took a couple of full blocks after I'd gotten up to about level 3 here. I took some full blocks and built them out this way and then sanded them back to match what's here on the top, which is an actual full width set of blocks on that. So again, don't try and be precise to these things. Use them as a guide as you go along. So that's where we are, and I guess the only other comment I'd make is I said I was going to try and do this a little rougher. I was not going to sand the edges, you know, to try and make everything square, given that there's a little parallelogram effect going on a lot of these pieces. I do still lay all the pieces out, and I rotate them to get those edges together as best they can, but I don't try and sand them down first. And just rotating them around and finding the right fit is proving to be good enough there. I'm not at all unhappy with the way this is coming together. Then what I'll do is I'll take all of these and I'll just set them over here, and I'll run a bead of glue across there and put them all back on one by one. And what I find, what I did on the previous models, is I would sand level every single course. Here what I'm doing is I'm doing 2 courses and then sanding level 2 courses, and I'll sand this again. And just a light sanding across the top of every other course seems to be enough to keep things going fairly level. There's a little bit of variation there, but not enough that I want to go back to doing all of the sanding I did on the previous model. So there you go, a little bit of progress on Iglesias de San Andres. They tell you to put the main church together so that here where you've got the stairway, you can do the brickwork you need to do in here before setting this piece in place, which will make it very difficult to reach in there. So that's the next thing I'm going to have to puzzle through and figure out. And when I do, I'm sure I'll put up a video. So anyway, there you go. Thank you for joining me, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. And a quick addendum. So after making that video, I got to looking at this and looking at this and looking at the pictures and thinking, no, that's not wide enough. It's not substantial enough there. And I realized that I actually could match the width shown here if I took the tact of actually having a brick and a half on both sides, which I think is going to look better in terms of size there. So what that gives me is a full width and a half on both sides, full width and a half, rather than just having, you know, 1 brick by 1 brick on the corner. So that's probably what I'm going to do. It's going to make things one step slightly more complicated, but I think that looks better, and I think we do need something fairly substantial on either side here. But anyway, all of this is to say, you know, part of the trick with this model and other models that have a lot of decorative columns and reinforcements and what have you here is you've got to think your way through it step by step before you commit yourself. Not that you can't sand stuff down or redo, but I've spent a bit of time playing with this, trying to figure out how I'm going to do these in a way that'll make me happy and look pretty good. So anyway, there we go, an addendum for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.